Okay, good evening. Can you hear me? Can you see the slide? Please, if you can, write in the chat. Okay, thumbs up. I think that is a message for that everything is good. Please note that we are trying at the moment as well stream this in YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And this is testing for this. But if that is an issue for somebody, I understand, and I don't mind if you need to leave, but I don't recall anybody by its name. So all what the streamers see in YouTube or Facebook is that screen over there. So your names are not seeing there. But let's see that does that kind of streaming work as well. Okay, I think we are ready to start. Really fascinating webinar, and don't mind if I'll go a little bit longer than 9 p.m. here at the Finland. I have lots of information, and this is so important topic, so don't mind if a few minutes longer than expected. First, few words about me. If you don't know who I am, my name is Ville Isola, and I'm coming from Finland. I'm director of IFBB Nordic Academy and also the Secretary General of IFBB Coaches Commission. And my task in the international field of fitness and bodybuilding is to develop the coaching education system worldwide. And my background is coming from highly academical background. I have studied bodybuilders and fitness athletes since 2016. And at the moment, I'm doing my PhD studies in University of Jyväskylä, and I will be doctor next year. But now, before we go into today's topic, I want to hear, where are you coming from? Please write in the chat, where are you coming from, so we can see that there's people all around the world. Philippines, Finland, Japan, nice. Estonia, Finland, really nice. Really nice. Yes, Finland. And now, because history, we are using Zoom first time, and I want you to put the captions on and the translating on. I want to hear feedback after this webinar. Does those captions really worked in your language? So I think this is just a hint of that future is here, because we don't need to go long in the future, and the language we can see that even the captions can be in your language. And please, if there is any technical problems, my voice is sounding not normal or something else, put that on the chat and tell us. But I think, and I hope that everything goes smoothly, because this is first time using Zoom in this webinar. And please note, of course, that this will be recorded. The objective this webinar is to provide comprehensive understanding of transition from competition to development season and focusing on recovery phase. And after this webinar, you will learn evidence-based strategies, how to effectively manage post-competition recovery and restore hormonal balance and adjust training and nutritional protocols to maximize future performance and physique in bodybuilding. And I hope that you will be equipped with practical tools to support your own and your clients' physiological and psychological recovery after after competition preparation. And please share your webinar experience on social media, take pictures and tag us so we can reshare those and we can all see who was participating in this webinar. Few words here at the beginning, our work and what our IFBB Nordic Academy offers. Our mission is to be the leading authority in fitness and bodybuilding education in Nordic region and beyond. And if you are not yet following us on Instagram, please start now because we are giving you the free nutrition and training tips. And also we have free course. You can, by joining the free course, you can see how our learning platform is structured. And also we have the mobile app for the iPhone, the iOS as well as Android phone. So please download the app. It is totally free and you can use our course with that application. And here, our last webinar this year will be on December, and this is the last day, I think, the World Championships in Japan, but there's no other way to keep it or other day. But if you register for that, you can see that from us recording. And we talk about the typical pitfalls, what athletes do, and those missteps, what can be done, and how to manage those. So, few words about our courses, and then we go to today's topic. Our education program starts from personal trainer course, and then we have different advanced courses, nutrition course, and in 1 week we will start our first resistance training advanced course. Then that's going to be really interesting, and our aim is to provide all the necessary information about the hypertrophy training in fitness and bodybuilding in that course. Sorry. And of course, tomorrow start our master coach program, and we are really excited about that. I think you have seen some of our marketing material about that, but I must clarify how the program is structured. 5 intense weekends, and we will start tomorrow with the competition preparation, and we have our esteemed guests Eric Drexler, Eric Helms, and Dr. Pack talking about the competition preparation. And next weekend will be on December, and then we talking about The recovery phase, the same like here in the webinar at the moment. And after that, we will have the development season in January. And there is Menno Henselmans and Eric Helms as international lectures as well. And then during March, we will discuss about how to be a successful coach in fitness and bodybuilding. And we have our grand finale in June. And then we will all be the master, the most comprehensive coaches in IFBB. But if you are interested and if you have any questions, you can send me an email. And we start tomorrow 6 p.m. So if you want to join, you need to join before that. But that's going to be a really fascinating. And I have done the course material. And for this first weekend, for example, there's over 500 pages of material of competition preparation and different aspects, training, nutrition, and so on. And what else is happening in future? Next year, we will introduce the Inner Circle for Nordic Academy, this kind of subscription model, which include these webinars, and they're a little bit more comprehensive, and there's no marketing at all, just quality content. And we also offer Q&A sessions with video for our Inner Circle members. And what else? This is the last slide of marketing, I promise. Next year, we will be translated all our material in Nordic language. So the language is not barrier anymore. And we take consideration different learners. Here is, for example, of
super interesting.
One of the topic
recovery for physique athletes. Yeah. Specifically bodybuilders.
It's a big how we take consideration the different learners, and this is powered by Notebook LM, but really good way to learn difficult aspects of this by just hearing in that kind of podcast format. But if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. You can ask me from email. Now we go.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing
to today's topic. Okay, the recovery phase after competitions, where the toughest battles and most crucial victories occur. And someone has said that competition preparation is nothing compared the time after the competition. And I think there is some wisdom behind that. And let me explain. So when we look at the fitness athletes, so-called donut chart, where we start from off-season, and off-season lasts somewhere from 24 weeks to 22 weeks, or of course even more. For beginners, it can be more, of course. But then when the competition preparation starts, we can say that the athlete is in season during the competition preparation. And when the competition preparation is over, starts the peak week. And nowadays it's quite normal that athletes are taking more competitions, just one competition. So they are participating like 4 competitions after competition preparation. So that is one thing also to keep that physique and keep that competition, that physique in competition shape for many weeks. So after that, starts the recovery phase. And this is critical because I think that there wasn't enough talk about recovery phase a few years ago, because typically there has always been in season or off season, so the competition preparation and the off season, but not recovery phase between. And the recovery phase is crucial, and I will explain you why. We have conducted 2 webinars regarding this, but they have covered more about the post-competition blues and post-competition recovery, so-called the immediate timing after competitions, how to manage that in context of a physical athlete or bodybuilder. But now today's topic, we shift our mind a little bit more to this recovery phase and what we need to do that to shift to off season or so-called development season. What needs to take consideration? First thing is important to bear in mind that don't spend more time on dieting than energy surplus, especially if you don't meet the division criteria in muscle mass. And one common pitfalls, I think, is that many athletes fall into this cycle of crash dieting. That after competitions, they are still eating extremely low calories and doing hours of cardio, only trying to keep that condition from competitions. And they refuse to accept that body start to modify softer. So this idea in first of all leads to different bad scenarios. It can lead to guilt and repeated aggressive dieting, which suppresses the metabolism even more and make it nearly impossible to lose fat in next competition preparation. So this is normal, I think, and this is quite common. And how you can tackle this problem and how you can manage this as a coach, you need to educate your client and your athletes that is that competition condition, it's just part of the sport, and it only few minutes or at least few hours during the competition day, and then it must need to change when we start recovering from the competitions. And why we need to talk about more about the recovery phase, like I told you earlier, that back in the days bodybuilding has emphasized only these 2, competition preparation and the off season, but no recovery phase between. And why we need recovery phase in first place? We need it because we need to prevent burnout and fatigue, and we need to prevent all those dropouts from our sports. We have too much those athletes who only compete once. And I claim that the main reason for that is that they haven't recovered sufficiently from the competitions, or they had bad coaching during the competition preparation, but especially after competitions. The second reason why we need to have recovery phase to maximize our gains. We need sufficient recovery phase where we focus recovery and then we start the development season to gain more muscle mass. And of course, in context of long-term health, it is detrimental that we recover after competitions. And the recovery phase is not break from the sports. It can be at least short break, but it is essential third phase of successful bodybuilding cycle. And understanding this and embracing this phase can end up with the better long-term progress and improved overall health. Because typically what happens after competitions, our athletes' fat mass and body weight start to increase, of course, or at least they should increase. Metabolism may be adapted because the competition preparation, also typically hormones are hampered. Our athletes can feel emptiness, depression, or lack of direction or motivation. And that is quite normal because typically athletes have used so much willpower to successfully complete the competition preparation, and then the competitions have been, and especially in those cases when the end result is not what the athlete hoped, this drop after competition preparation can be quite big. Also, different kinds of lingering feelings of stress or mood disturbances can persist. And the typical symptoms, the infinite hunger and cravings, what are normal part of the time after competitions, and reduced training performance and sleep. Sleep is hampered during the competition preparation and it start to get better and better. But this at least happen. And what else can happen after competitions? And I want to emphasize that there is no such a thing than this rebound effect in bodybuilding. We talk about that in our previous webinar, but there's no such a thing, and that rebound effect only is coming from the water retention in the body and increased water amount, but no muscle structure, muscle fibers are built straight after the competitions. Or typical myth is that time after competitions are highly anabolic. No, they are not. No, that is not, because you need to recover. And you need to recover because of metabolism, hormones, and all these psychological aspects as well. So this recovery phase is intended to restore physiological balance to post-competition. The aim is reverse hormone imbalances, regain lost muscle mass if there is any, and restore strength and energy, and also enhance the motivation to training and fitness and bodybuilding in overall. And we need gradual approach for this post-competition phase. Because after competitions, athletes often have extremely low calorie intake to achieve their maximum leanness. They have eaten quite low amount energy. So if we rapidly increase our caloric intake, our body is not ready to take all those energy and use them wisely. We learned from previous webinar that this kind of a body fat overshooting might be possible, that even our fat cells divide if we get too much energy for too short period of time. And this is what we don't want, that we get more fat cells in our body, because that is how uh, it's more difficult to get in competition shape in next time. So we need gradual approach, little by little. And of course, you have dieted down during the competition preparation 10 kilos or 15 kilos or more. Of course, your total daily energy expenditure is lower because you are smaller and you don't expend that much energy. So we need to start gradually. And typical approach, what I see is that athletes are doing the reverse diet, and that is good thing. And we should implement the reverse dieting, that for sure. But we need to take some important factors account. And about this metabolic rate, we saw in our study that this metabolic adaptation is a real phenomena, what happens during the competition preparation. For some individual, even 500 calories the body adapts. So the metabolism adapts so much. So it is, we have slower metabolism after competition preparation. That is because our body first task is to survive, and when our body recognizes that we don't have enough energy, it starts shutting down our systems. But we need gradual approach to little by little to starting those process again and increase our bodily functions little by little. So how to make that energy intake gradual increase? We know from the studies from bodybuilders back in the 90s that there was this conclusion that even 1,600 calories need to increase in caloric intake after competitions. And yes, that sounds quite reasonable. If an athlete has been eaten 1,000 calories, so it should increase the caloric intake for 1,600 calories. But is it advisable to increase that amount right away? Not necessarily, because you need to have the gradual approach. And this reverse dieting is a really good concept for that. So the optimal duration in overall for this recovery phase, before we go into the nutrition, how much and what, please remember that what we see in previous studies conducted by physics athletes, it has been taken even 6 months for some athletes to recover from the diet. And what that means, for example, that the hormonal balance recovers after 6 months, not earlier, but after 6 months it recovers. And even there's a one case study which shows that 71 week lasted that the menstruation was normal with some female athlete. And also the training adaptations or body composition changes takes time, 3 to 5 months, 2 to 4 months. And the main message here is that recovery is highly individual. It can be quicker than this. It can happen in 2 months. Only God knows. But we see those participants in the studies that it takes 6 months even to recover. So that is important to understand. And also the main thing is that yes, it totally takes time to recover. And why this is important. So if our hormonal system has not recovered or our metabolism has not recovered and we start competition preparation again, that affects on that competition preparation to that next competition preparation in big time, because we typically in those kind of situation that second competition preparation needs to be more intense and the energy deficit needs to be bigger than the first time if we haven't recovered in sufficient way or proper way. So that's why this recognizing this recovery phase, that always there should be recovery phase. This is important. And why this long recovery period is important: to avoid chronic fatigue. And here comes the psychological point of view. Yes, it is possible to compete in spring and next fall, yes, and even the next spring as well. But if the athlete never recovers from that, it will demand lots of willpower to successfully complete all of those competition preparations and so on. So there's a high risk for dropout. And speaking of which, these health problems, what might can happen at least after that situation. So this is important. Is recovered more quickly, and all the hormonal balance is, and the hormonal levels are on the reference level, and the athlete is feeling normal, sleep is normal, hunger is normal, and so on and so on. So that is just a good thing. But be aware, there's individuals who might need more time. And we don't know, but I think that the more experienced athlete are, the shorter time they need to recover, because the body has kindly used to it, and the body can recover more quickly as well when we are talking about the experienced athlete. And of course, that is a big factor as well, that how long the competition preparation is in first place and how much body weight has decreased during that competition preparation. Because the general recommendation is that the shorter the competition preparation is and the smaller amount athlete need to decrease the body weight, the better outcome there will be. And that should be the aim in the long term, in the long run, that the athlete is getting closer and closer to competition physique in at least in context of body fat persons, that those competition diet isn't that long, that they are commonly are like 30 weeks, 25 weeks, half month. It's a quite big and long competition preparation. But back to more this topic. So this reverse dieting, the concept idea is good, and this is how you should manage the recovery phase. But if we look the original recommendation for the reverse dieting, there is this instructions that 2% increase per week in calories after competitions to avoid rapid fat gain. But there is a risk in that if we just increase that low amount caloric intake after competitions, we could end up the situation that the athlete is still on energy deficit after competitions for long time period, because 2% from 2000 calories isn't much. Or speaking of which, if the athlete has dieted with 1000 calories before the peak week, so if we there start to increase our caloric intake by book and how the reverse dieting says, that is not good. So how we can measure and assume what amount we should eat and how much? One good concept for this could be this energy availability. This energy availability tells us that how much energy there is to body to use and maintain the physiological function after training. So to calculate the energy availability, you need to know your caloric intake and you need to know the expenditure for exercise. And let's imagine this this kind of black and white example, so it's easy all of us to understand. Let's imagine that we are eating 2000 calories every day and we are training at the gym every day for 1 hour, and approximately for 1 hour at the gym expend 300 calories. So if we were eating 2000 calories, we minus that exercise expenditure, that 300 for that, so we get 1700 calories. And we divide that number with fat-free mass. So 1700 divided with fat-free mass gives us the number of energy availability. And I have examples later on, beware. But what is important here at the low about this energy availability levels, it is said that low energy availability is when individual is having lower than 25 calories per kilogram of fat-free mass on every day. So our study showed, for example, that one individual was having 16 calories per day. So that is really low. So there are definitely physical athletes on competition preparation. They are at low energy availability. And here is a study, Areta et al., showing what adaptation happens in our body during the low energy availability. Not good things. And this also a typical adaptation in competition preparation. But here, the critical number, the optimal for muscle growth, and the recommendation is 45 calories per kilogram of fat-free mass. So that is the number we should aim for. And that is the number we should aim for during the recovery phase, because that number should be the number during the off season. Then we have optimal amount energy, we have optimized our nutrition, and we have all the good possibility to grow new muscle. So to look a little bit these practical examples, what this means if we are having 50 kilo body fitness athlete straight after the competitions, which fat-free mass is approximately 44 kilos, and we assume that the body fat is 12%, the lowest amount what typically females have during the competitions and based on recent studies. So straight after competitions, to get that optimal amount energy and taking account a little bit the expenditure from training, it gives us 2,180 calories per day. And when the athlete is eating that amount, it's close to optimal range. And should the athlete increase immediately to that number, I say it depends. It depends on how low the initial calories have been before the peak week. So that is important to understand. So another case here, 85 kilo classic bodybuilder. We assume that on the stage he had 5% of body fat, so the fat-free mass was 81. So what that means in calories, if we are aiming to optimal level, is 3,900 calories. So that is the 45 calories. So that is the number for what you should aim for. And if we look a little bit further time, the body weight has increased from 50 kilo to 60 kilo, and the body fat percentages have increased as well. And some of you have noticed that she has gained 3 kilos fat-free mass during that recovery phase. So how much she should eat? 2,400 calories. Not that much, maybe, if you compare to those numbers straight after competitions, but I must emphasize that it highly depends on the last calorie intake before the competitions, because we need to gradually increase. And is it good way to increase week by week, or every 2 weeks, or every month? There's no right answer for that. The best thing is that you need to track and monitor. You need to track the body weight. You need to monitor the development, and if the fat mass is start to increase too much, then you need to go back a little bit. Like here, little bit back. So this body fat overshooting phenomena, it is just suggested that good numbers to track is that body weight shouldn't increase more than 1.5 kilos per week after competitions, or 35% increase per week. And please note, this doesn't take account those first 3 to 5 kilos, what always happens straight after competition dinner, when the athletes is eating something new, so there's a lot of water in the body, and the body weight increases just for eating something different. But those are good numbers to track, and remember that body weight shouldn't increase that much, that 1.5 kilos per week, or 35% of overall from body weight. So that is how you should manage the nutrition during the recovery phase. And please, if you have any questions, you can write them in the chat. We have a Q&A session at last. And in the end of this webinar. But before that, let's look a little bit about training. What we should do about training during the recovery phase. It is highly normal that athletes are having motivation dips after competitions due to mental and physical fatigue, and also the psychological fatigue. They have been also competition focused, that when the competitions are over, then the emptiness, what happens, it's pretty common. My recommendation is to shift the training focus to maximum strength during the recovery phase. And why is that? The biggest reason is that the volume is one thing where we need to recover from, and because our hormones are hampered, our metabolism are hampered, so there's no use to even try to build muscle that same level as we do in development season. So shifting a focus on different aspect and to maximum strength, that can be highly motivating for some athletes. at least with the beginner athletes, because the development in maximum strength will be really quick. And to increase strength in overall, that doesn't need that much volume, so that is really good for our recovery as well. Because general thing is that we need to lower our training volume, or at least it is recommended, because our capacity to recover is hampered after competitions. And emphasizing the heavy lifting, not necessarily always the one repetition maximum, but making the training like in powerlifting. It can be really good option. And I don't say that everybody should take that approach, but that can be one option. Also, one thing is to consider so-called basic pro split, because we know from the volume that we need to increase volume in over time, but once in a while we need to start again. We just cannot increase and increase and increase, because otherwise it was so easy. Just go in the gym, do more reps and sets, and we just gain more muscle. No, we need to, in long time, we need to increase, but once in a while we need to go back and start again. So pro split is a good way, because then the volume is quite low, and typically after competitions when the motivation may not be the best one, so making like a traditional pro split on Monday chest bicep, and Tuesday back, Wednesday always off day, Thursday shoulders and triceps, and on Friday legs. So that's that that is a good way to reset the volume. And one thing and one option can be also this typical powerlifting programming. And here's one example of this kind of skewed pyramid. And this is a highly experienced athlete. If we think about like 200 kilo squat, but just doing the squat in the gym and maybe 2 or 3 other exercise and then go home. And that is highly different than training before the competitions, when there was a cardio training at the morning, and then really high intense gym training, and even after that a little bit cardio and posing. So shifting that kind of training to just go in the gym and do the squats and maybe 2 3 exercise and then get home. So that really diminishes the volume, for example, and the work done. And one thing also, one good option can be the totally off from gym training. And here's a really good study conducted my dear friend and colleague Eli Halonen et al. And they showed in this study that 10-week detraining period did not hinder long-term gains in muscle strength or size. So there was 2 groups, like it was a 30 weeks. They started first 10 week, the groups train it same way and they get gains. And after 10 weeks, the other group didn't train at all for 10 weeks, and the third section of that 10-week, last 10-week, the two groups trained and they watched what happened, the end result, and they showed that there was the same amount gains in muscle and strength. So even, of course, it's always more anabolic and more developing going in the gym and train, but that this could be good option for some athletes. And I don't, and this doesn't mean that you need to take off from the gym 10 weeks, but just like taking 2 weeks off, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, so the motivation can really climb back during that detraining phase, and that can be a good option as well. Because I know that in track and field athletes, after competition period, they totally shift training to other sport. Like track and field athletes start to play ice hockey for 6 weeks or 7 weeks, and after that ice hockey period, they go back to their own sports. But that is a psychological thing to keep motivating and motivated, and there's and that kind of athlete is not bad athlete at all. That is highly normal. And those who are telling that no excuses every time on the gym, they don't know the actually thing. Because the opposite or the other side of the coin can be that the athlete is totally fatigued in bodybuilding in overall, so he drops out and never competes again. So this kind of a reduced intensity and frequency training phase also, it can be 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It highly depends on the situation, but this can be a good option. Okay, but to summarize the recovery phase strategies, remember that reverse diet approach, gradually increase because your body weight has decreased during the competition preparation and your metabolism are more likely hampered and your hormones as well. So you don't expend that much energy as normally. Other factor, it's good time to reset your volume so the muscles are more sensitive to next training phase and the next development season. Think about that power building focus. That could be one option, or totally off from the gym. And the psychological point of view, build self efficiency, confidence, and first of all, that mental shift from aesthetic focus, but first that now it's time to recover. We have competed, we have successfully competition season. Now we recover, and then we start to develop and we compete again. So allow ample time for recovery. And lastly, how do you know that you have recovered? You have restored energy levels. You are feeling energized throughout the day, not just in during workout, but in everyday life. Your hormones has recovered. You not might notice otherwise than going and taking the blood work in hospital, but you can do that, and nowadays it's quite cheap. But there's no use to make and take that blood work straight after competitions. Of course, they are hampered, but like after 8 weeks, after 12 weeks, and when the body weight is stable and body composition is stable, there is no water retention or blooding in the body, and that is a good marker for that. For example, that when the body is recovered, the body weight remains stable when the caloric intake is the same and the expenditure is the same, and the improved training performance and normal hunger signals that 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 hunger goes away when you eat, and that is good sign, because it is normal that after competitions, no matter how much you eat, hunger doesn't go away. And all about those feelings, anxiety about weight gain or mood disturbances. And also one bullet point here should be the sleep, that the sleep is normal and you will get enough sleep. So now, please, if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. And if you don't dare to ask here, you can always send me an email. But I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and I hope you get something new, at least some ideas. So, yes. So lastly, I show this our upcoming courses. Like I said, the master course starts tomorrow, and resistance training course start 1 week, and our next personal trainer course start in January. So see you all there. But now I want to thank you for attention, and please show that QR code for your phone and give us feedback. Was this webinar good? Was this info relevant? What about this Zoom? What about the captions? Did there fulfill the purpose? I know that some words they might not recognize, of course, because of my pronouncing as well, but I hopefully you get the most of the idea. Okay, please give us feedback, and we will see you in next webinar in December. But until then, have a good night and have a nice upcoming weekend. See you next time, and this webinar is over. Thank you.